It was a sweltering July evening in 2024 when the police cars rolled into our quiet cul-de-sac in Boise, Idaho, their red and blue lights slicing through the dusk like warning signals. My wife, Sophia, was in our living room, wrapping up a video call with her commanding officer, her voice steady as she discussed network security protocols. I was outside, watering the roses, when I saw Margaret Hensley, our HOA president, standing in her front yard, clutching a thick folder and screaming into her phone at a 911 dispatcher. She was pointing at Sophia like she'd spotted a fugitive. This wasn't a mix-up. For weeks, Margaret had been convinced Sophia was some kind of criminal interloper who didn't belong in her pristine neighborhood. Sophia's tattoos, her slight Puerto Rican accent, the way she carried herself apparently, that was all the proof Margaret needed to brand her a threat. But when the cops arrived and Sophia handed over her ID, Margaret's face crumpled in a way I'll never forget. What Sophia revealed that night turned our world upside down. Let me rewind to how this all started. I'm Jack Thompson, 38, a guy who's been calling this Boise suburb home for a decade. My grandfather, a Korean War vet, left me this cozy ranch-style house he built himself in 1958. The neighborhood's what you'd call upper middle class, mostly white, with manicured lawns and HOA rules dictating everything from fence heights to mailbox colors. I run a small plumbing business, and life was smooth, almost too perfect. No drama, no headaches. That should have been my first clue it wouldn't last. The day Sophia moved in was a scorcher, the kind of Idaho summer heat that makes your shirt stick to your back. She pulled up in a U-Haul, boxes labeled Rodriguez, stacked high, fresh from her Air Force base in Nevada. I was nervous not about Sophia, who's the strongest person I know, but about how the neighbors might react. This place wasn't exactly a melting pot. In my 10 years here, I noticed how folks got quiet when the black delivery guy dropped off packages or how smiles tightened when anyone different walked by. You know that vibe polite on the surface, but something uglier simmering underneath. I was hauling boxes when Margaret Hensley, HOA president and self-proclaimed guardian of community standards, marched over with a clipboard in one hand and a tray of cookies in the other. I'd always gotten along with Margaret. She kept the neighborhood looking sharp and never griped about my work van parked out front. But that day, her stride had a purpose that made my gut twist. "Well, hello," she said, her voice dripping with something I couldn't quite place. What a unique addition to our little community. The way she said unique felt like she was describing a stain on her carpet. Sophia was wearing a tank top, and that's when Margaret zeroed in on her tattooist's stunning piece on her forearm, Air Force wings woven with a Puerto Rican flag and a Taino sun. It was art, a badge of her heritage and service, but Margaret's eyes locked on it like it was a gang sign. Her smile tightened, and she actually stepped back. "My, that's bold artwork," she said, her tone trying for casual but landing somewhere else. "Very city chic aesthetic." City chic. Even I caught the dig, and I'm not the sharpest at reading between the lines. Sophia, though, saw it instantly. She tugged her sleeve down, covering the tattoo, and gave Margaret a look not angry, but like she'd seen this script before. "Government contractor," Sophia said when Margaret asked about her job, keeping it vague. "Cybersecurity work." Margaret wasn't done. "How wonderful," she chirped, her enthusiasm so fake it practically echoed. "What agency?" "We love supporting our public servants." The pause before public servants hung heavy, like she was testing Sophia. For 45 minutes, Margaret grilled her where she grew up, if her family was local, how she found her way to Boise. Every question was polite but sharp, like a knife wrapped in a napkin. She handed Sophia a thick HOA packet, emphasizing community aesthetic guidelines like they were sacred. All the while, she scribbled notes, like she was building a case file. I was clueless, thinking it was just neighborly curiosity. But that night, as we unpacked, Sophia set me straight. "That woman wasn't welcoming me, Jack," she said, using the nickname she calls me when she's serious. "She's profiling me. I've seen this on base-coded language, fake concern. She's already decided I don't belong." Sophia's instincts were dead on. Her military training had taught her to spot targeting behavior, and she started noticing things I missed. Margaret sitting in her car across the street, binoculars glinting in the dusk. Sophia caught her photographing our house, tailing her to the grocery store, even noting when Sophia spoke Spanish on the phone with her mom. She's building a dossier, Sophia told me one night, showing me a folder of her own photos, timestamps, notes. This is professional surveillance. I've seen it before. I kept making excuses. Maybe Margaret was just paranoid. Maybe she was waiting for someone. God, I was naive. Margaret had turned her house into a war room, her so-called neighborhood safety initiative, a cover for stalking Sophia. She had spreadsheets tracking Sophia's schedule, when she left for work at 5:30 a.m., when she came home, what she wore. She even marked Sophia's Spanish phone calls as suspicious foreign communications. It was unhinged, but meticulously organized. Margaret's real talent, though, was manipulating the neighborhood. As HOA president for 9 years, she knew how to push buttons without crossing lines. To our tech bro neighbor, Ethan, she'd say, "We need to protect our neighborhood's character, for property values." To older folks like Mr. Clarence, a Vietnam vet, she'd lean in. "You remember when neighborhoods had shared values, don't you?" Never outright racist, always cloaked in deniability. She'd host coffee clatches, dropping hints about cultural shifts and rapid demographic changes, citing fake studies about community cohesion. Sophia was fighting a war I barely understood. She documented every move Margaret made, knowing it'd go legal. "When it does," she said, "I'll be ready." I still thought she was overreacting until the first HOA letter arrived. It was a resident verification protocol, demanding Sophia's background check, employment records, and cultural compatibility documentation. Cultural compatibility? It was bureaucratic nonsense, but Sophia saw it for what it was. Discrimination dressed up as policy. "This is how they do it," she told me, pointing to the letter's phrasing. Every word's chosen to sound legal while targeting people like me. They want me gone. The harassment escalated. Citations piled up, $200 fines for non-native plants. We had none. Noise complaints for Sophia's morning workouts. Even a parking violation for her truck taking up too much space in our own driveway. My business took a hit. 3 clients canceled, spooked by Margaret's whispers about contractors supporting problematic elements. I was furious, but Sophia stayed calm, methodical. Using her cybersecurity skills, she dug into Margaret's digital trail and hit pay dirt. Margaret had siphoned $9,000 from the HOA budget, disguising it as security consulting to fund her crusade. Private investigators, legal fees, even printed photos of Sophia's tattoo, paid with neighborhood money. Margaret's son, Nathan, a 25-year-old sociology grad student, was our unexpected ally. He'd been arguing with his mom, horrified by her obsession. One day, he showed up at our door, looking drained. "I'm sorry," he said. "She's using corporate diversity buzzwords to exclude people. It's racism with a PhD. I'm documenting it for my thesis, but you need to know she's not stopping." He warned us Margaret was consulting lawyers to weaponize HOA bylaws against us. Worse, she'd contacted the Air Force's Office of Special Investigations, OSI, alleging Sophia was running unauthorized classified operations from our house. She'd sent them photos, timelines, even speculation about foreign contacts. It was a lie so convincing it triggered a federal investigation. Sophia got called into her commander's office, her security clearance under review, her promotion on hold. "They have detailed allegations," she told me, her voice shaking for the first time. "Someone's trying to ruin me." The investigation was brutal. Every call, every late night, every piece of tech in our house scrutinized. Sophia had to justify her marriage to me, her family ties, her entire life. Meanwhile, Margaret gloated, telling neighbors the military probe proved she was right. The breaking point came on a Friday night in August 2024. I was checking my phone at 10:45 p.m. when 2 squad cars lit up our street. Margaret stood in her yard, waving her folder like a trophy. Her 911 call was a masterclass in veiled racism, no mention of Puerto Rican or immigrant, just a concerning demographic situation with non-traditional documentation. She described Sophia's tattoo as indicators of alternative affiliations and her late-night work as suspicious integration activities. Officer Rivera, bless him, saw through it instantly. He'd been trained to spot discrimination masquerading as concern. Still, he had to follow protocol. I stepped outside, confused. What's going on? Margaret jumped in, brandishing photos of Sophia's tattoo. These artistic choices reflect cultural priorities misaligned with our family values, she told the cops. I nearly lost it. She was calling Sophia's military tattoo evidence of a crime. Sophia walked out, calm as ever, in full Air Force mode. Good evening, officers, she said. How can I assist? She handed over her military ID, and Officer Rivera read it aloud. Technical Sergeant Sophia Rodriguez Thompson, United States Air Force. The silence was electric. Margaret's face cycled through shock, denial, then horror. This urban aesthetic, Sophia said, rolling up her sleeve to show her tattoo, is Air Force wings with my Puerto Rican heritage. I earned it serving the country you claim to protect. The neighborhood erupted. Ethan, our tech neighbor, called out Margaret's community character talk as coded racism. Mr. Clarence, the vet, looked ashamed for ever buying her spiel. Officer Rivera warned Margaret about false reports, while his partner noted that baseless 911 calls could lead to charges. Neighbors apologized to Sophia, some in tears. But Sophia squeezed my hand and whispered, "Look at her face. That's not defeat. That's calculation." She was right. Margaret wasn't done. By Monday, the citations resumed, more fines, more complaints, all cloaked in community standards. Sophia's OSI investigation dragged on, threatening her career. But she fought back. At an HOA meeting, she walked in wearing her dress uniform, a PowerPoint ready. She laid out Margaret's $9,000 embezzlement, backed by financial records, Nathan's testimony, and audio of Margaret using racial slurs when she thought no one was listening. This is federal embezzlement, Ethan, now a board member, said, stunned. Mr. Clarence saluted Sophia, apologizing for his earlier silence. The board voted 5-1 to oust Margaret as president. She was the lone dissenting vote. The legal fallout was swift. Margaret faced felony charges for embezzlement and filing false reports. Neighbors filed civil rights complaints with the FBI. Her husband filed for separation, his business tanking from the scandal. Nathan disavowed her publicly, his thesis exposing her racism gaining traction in academic circles. The OSI cleared Sophia with a formal apology and a commendation, fast-tracking her promotion to technical sergeant. But Margaret's obsession hit a terrifying peak. Nathan called one night, panicked. She bought a gun, he said. She's talking about permanent action to take back her neighborhood. Sophia went into crisis mode, alerting base security and the FBI. We sat in our living room, lights on, watching Margaret's house. At 9:30 p.m., her car pulled out, and Nathan screeched into our driveway, yelling, "She's armed." Margaret approached our yard, gun in hand, her face a mess of smeared makeup and rage. "Sophia, you need to leave," she said, eerily calm. "You destroyed my life. If I can't have my neighborhood, no one can." Nathan tried to intervene, but Margaret turned the gun on him, sobbing, "You chose them over me." The police arrived just in time, sirens blaring. Detective Sarah Collins, a crisis negotiator, talked Margaret down, getting her to see her reflection in our window. "What have I become?" Margaret whispered, dropping the gun and collapsing. She was committed for a 72-hour psych hold. Sophia, against all odds, refused to press charges. "She needs help, not prison," she said, looking at Nathan holding his broken mother. 3 months later, our neighborhood was unrecognizable. Ethan, now HOA president, added anti-discrimination bylaws. Mr. Clarence started a veterans group. A new Somali family moved into Margaret's old house, welcomed with cookies and gardening tips. Sophia's career soared. My business grew, serving diverse clients. Nathan's thesis on suburban racism became a cornerstone for fair housing programs. 6 months later, Nathan shared that Margaret was in treatment, writing apology letters to Sophia, taking full responsibility. Sophia wrote back not to reconcile, but to encourage healing. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting," she told me. "It's choosing to move forward." Our story spread, inspiring new HOA policies across Boise. Last 4th of July, watching Sophia lead kids from 10 countries in the Pledge of Allegiance, I realized Margaret was wrong. This wasn't her neighborhood. It was ours, built by courage, compassion, and a refusal to let hate win. What would you have done in Sophia's shoes, fought back with lawsuits, or shown mercy like she did? Should Margaret have faced prison for her actions, or was treatment the right call? Have you ever faced someone like her in your community? Drop a comment. Hit that like button if this story hit you hard, and subscribe for more real-life dramas that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Let's keep this conversation going because stories like this change how we see the world.